One croissant did that.
No
Really?
way.
Yeah.
What kind of croissant was it?
It was actually whole grain. Whole grain, but obviously it's not whole grain.
With
so-
honey.
With honey, yeah.
Was she worth it?
It was tasty. Tasty.
Well, that's good, Sal.
All right, here we go.
A 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3.
You got me lifted, shifted higher than the ceiling. Ooh, baby, it's the ultimate feeling. You got me lifted, feeling so gifted. Sugar, how'd you get so fly? Sugar, sugar, how'd you get so fly? Sugar, sugar, how'd you get so fly?
Sugar,
Beautiful.
sugar.
Thought I'd have some backing singers there, but
Sugar, sugar, how you get
band.
so high. Because today we're talking about Sal's self-experiment. We love a bit of self-experimentation.
We do.
Sal's been testing his blood glucose levels for the last 2 weeks, right, Sal?
Yes, I
He's-
did.
he's-
Indeed.
He's had something stuck into his arm, and he gets scanned like a barcode at your local supermarket, and the data gets sent straight to an app, I believe, Sal.
That is correct.
And he's going to tell us all about it.
Yes. So
Firstly, Sal, why would anyone do such a thing?
that is a very good question. I'm glad you asked me. Thank you very much. The reason is really that I was working with a company that was working on some kind of wearable device to control or some biometric data to predict COVID. It's not so interesting, but anyway, that kind of got me into the wearable space, headspace as well, and I saw some podcasts that also talked about biometric data and stuff like that recently. That got my interest, and about health and how you can actually optimize your health by learning more about yourself. Because, for example, if you are in a car and you see something flashing in your dashboard, you know something's wrong. So you want to get that fixed as fast as possible. And so the same principle can be used for your own body. If you already have some kind of flashlights, some warning signs before something breaks down, that's great, because then you can intervene before something happens. And so that kind of got me into this whole headspace. It's also completely possible, though, I must say, that Facebook and Google's algorithms kind of tricked me into this and manipulated me into getting such a device. I'm completely open to this possibility too. I started this kind of self-experiment, getting one of those devices. It's, by the way, anything I'm going to say now is not medical advice. I have no experience and no knowledge in medical stuff, and I'm just giving you my opinions about all this. Dennis doing some fancy stuff with his camera, all right?
Did you just say it's medical advice and everybody should be doing what you're about to describe? Very good. So
Exactly.
where do you buy this device first off? And what's it called?
So there are several devices on the market, so-called continuous glucose monitors. And there are several big companies like Dexter and others. But the Dexter ones, for example, cost $120 or even more. So I found a company called LibreLink, I believe. Not even quite sure about it, but the devices cost around €60, and they last for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And so you order it online, and they send you a package which arrives with a little device and an application, which is like a little, what would you call it? It's like a little round. It's not a chip. It's a bit bigger, with a sharp. What do you call it?
A needle.
Needle. There we go. Thank you very much. I was kind of stuck. I was in a loop. With a needle, and there's an application device too that helps you shoot it basically into your arm. It sounds more dramatic than it is, but it sticks to your arm then, not through the needle. There's also some kind of gluey stuff that happens there. And then it is basically in your arm, and you are a cyborg connected to the Internet of Things.
Can you show us? Is it still
You
in?
want me to strip down here now? I'm not sure if I can actually
Oh, you're not wearing a shirt under that?
access it. Oh, let's see. Can you see that?
You are a cyborg. That's amazing.
All right.
So that's been in for 2 weeks now.
It's been in for 2 weeks. And so you asked me, why would somebody do something silly like that? In fact, there's a lot of discussions online, although there's discussions about everything online, between people who have diabetes and people who don't have diabetes. Because you must know the following. Glucose is nothing else than, and I repeat, I'm not an expert on this, so I'll probably get half of this wrong, but it's nothing else than blood sugar. So if you eat something, let's say spaghetti, pasta, that's carbohydrates. And your body is going to try to break it down into nutrients it can use, and it's going to transform those carbohydrates into sugars. And those sugars is glucose. Or you just eat plain sugar, which is sugar, and which is glucose too. So once you eat and your body starts breaking this down, your blood, obviously, your sugar in the blood will go up. It will spike, okay? And if you do not have any problems with sugars and you are not diabetic, your body will release insulin, take the sugar, and will incorporate it into the cells. And so it breaks down the sugars, takes it out of your bloodstream and into the cells. And so it disappears and your glucose levels go down again. And you can measure that with a normal device. Normally this is done with a blood test in your finger. You take a sample before you eat and after you eat to measure how much glucose you have in the blood.
So Sal, your blood glucose will spike no matter what you eat, or only with certain macronutrients? Is it just with carbohydrates and sugars, or also with, for example, proteins?
As I understand, it will always spike a little bit. But if you do not have any problems, or are not pre-diabetic or diabetic, then these spikes will not be very dramatic. Okay, so there's actually a range, and now don't pin me down on the exact values, but I believe if you are under 78 milligrams per deciliter, I think that's the units, but I could be completely wrong. Everything below that is considered dangerous, too low as a blood sugar value. You could faint, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And everything over 140 milligrams per deciliter is considered too high and very bad, as too much sugar for too long times, too extended times for extended amount of time, can destroy your organs and is also pretty bad. So you want to generally stay within this kind of range, and so it would be interesting to see what happens throughout the day to your body, and that's why I got this device, because some people are optimizing in terms of they try to understand better which foods they can digest better, which foods create spikes, if there are spikes that go actually beyond those 140 milligrams per deciliter or not, and so you can avoid these foods. It's also interesting to figure out if you have actually a condition called pre-diabetes, which means that you are not diabetic, but you have a very high response to glucose, and your insulin might not be as efficient, and so the spikes are very high, and it takes a longer time for the spikes to come back down.
So,
okay.
Quick question.
Sure.
So all of the numbers and the data that we're about to look at, it's very, very particular to your body, right? So
yes.
Is the idea that most people's bodies will react to certain types of foods in similar ways, or is every individual completely original in that sense?
Every individual is, as far as I understand, very... Well, there was a Stanford University study that actually looked into that, because it was believed before that there are certain foods that are giving the same reaction to people with diabetes, for example, like white rice, like potato, and they are usually culprits when it comes to blood sugar peaks.
Mm-hmm.
But after doing the study, they realized, first of all, a lot of people who think they're healthy and would be considered healthy by normal tests, after testing them with a continuous glucose monitor, realized actually there's a lot of spikes happening that nobody was aware of, that are going way beyond the 140 milligrams per deciliter. So technically they were pre-diabetic, but they didn't know it, and they were not diagnosed as pre-diabetic. Second, they found out that people, as you just said, do react very differently to the same food. So it's possible, actually, funny enough, that some people can eat ice cream of all foods and have no glucose reaction at all, or a very little glucose reaction. And for others, it will spike, as you would expect. And some people have spikes with foods you would not even consider them to be unhealthy, like fruits. But fruit obviously also contains sugar. So
what's the like the real world consequence of a sugar spike? Is it an energy? Do you peak in energy or something like that, and then have a crash after? Is that what because what the charts are telling you? How do you feel that physically?
Do you mean how I feel personally when I have these spikes?
No, you and just people generally. What would, because I'm imagining here that you're trying to figure out which foods spike your blood sugar, but why? Is that so you've got a steadier release of energy through the day, so you don't kind of peak and trough too heavily? Is that it? Or
yeah, well, generally, after reading a lot about it, not claiming to understand it, any of it, but you want to avoid peaks of over 140 milligrams per deciliter. Just avoiding that, just being aware of what foods make you actually go over that limit, helps me prevent that identify foods that for me go over this limit and makes me prevent eating those foods. So I guarantee that I will not have any negative effects on my organs, because that's what happens actually when you go over these 140 milligrams.
So it's
continuously.
It's more of a long-term thing than it is a day-to-day, like more of a long-term advantage.
Yeah, it's a longevity.
Your organs aren't getting damaged.
Exactly. So for me, it was for longevity reasons mainly, and out of curiosity, of course, because already I got my next experiment, what I will show you in a minute.
So it's not that when you have a blood glucose spike, you feel like a rush or anything like that? Okay.
I think it's the other way around. If you have a low blood glucose level, then you will feel very exhausted and tired, up to the point where you could faint, for example, as I said, if it goes very low. But you would probably have some health condition that you should get checked out if you have that kind of condition. So since the time is not a lot, I would just jump into sharing a few images here.
You got some data.
Give
me some data, Daddy.
If I can,
down to the figures.
If I can, I want to see if I actually also manage. So this is for the whole period, for the whole 2 weeks, but this is actually not so interesting. Let me get another one. If I can also get my food log, because of course I was logging everything that I was eating, so we can actually compare that. Let's see. So you both see the image, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just a second here. Let's see if I can get to my food.
I don't like that line going above 150, Sal.
Well, this is just the beginning.
Was that a dairy milk?
That is nothing.
Naughty dairy milk.
Was that an extra scoop? You naughty boy.
Let's see. Okay, here we go. So this is on the 10th, right? So I did not log any food here yet. But as you can see, the normal range would be considered between somewhere here, down here, around 70 something, and this is 140, right? So this is where the optimum range would be. And here we see around 6 o'clock, I probably had some dinner here, and right after dinner it spikes, right? So what happens is basically after you eat something, your glucose levels will go up, then insulin kicks in, and then slowly but sure it should go down. Normally in healthy people it should go down within an hour, so 2 hours after you ate. So from 6 till 8 here, it should be back to normal levels, and mine is a bit higher here, as we can see. Okay, let's go to the next day.
Oh my lord.
Exactly. So I think, indeed, the evening before I had a party, a birthday party, where I ate quite late. Is Den still with us? Hey, Den, you still there?
I think I heard the...
Yeah. Yeah, sorry.
Now he's
if
back.
it was kind of fuzzy on your end.
So you had a birthday party, and it spiked you beyond 250.
Exactly.
The moral of the story is, don't celebrate anything. It will ruin your blood sugar level.
Let me just quickly see, because I don't see them moving anymore. There we go. All right, sweet.
And then you went up to about 170. What the hell happened in the evening?
So this is on the 11th of February. So let's compare this now to some data. 11th, so at 8:15, I had some coffee. And then at 10:13, I had some nuts. So I'm sure I ate something else here, which I didn't log yet, because in the beginning I wasn't taking it that serious. But at 8 o'clock, I had dinner. Of course, I didn't write down what I ate. But we can see a pretty brutal spike here. You see that?
What was it, Sal? Come on, you can share. You're among friends.
Well, it probably was pasta, I think. I'm quite sure it was pasta, actually. Spaghetti. Spaghetti with lentils. Okay.
What did the nuts do to you at 10:13?
No, it's not the nuts that did this here. I'm sure I had some bread or something.
Okay.
So in the beginning, I was just eating as normally as I usually would eat. All right, let me see here. Next day, 12th. Now the interruption is because the device only captures your data for 8 hours. So if you forget to scan in between, you lose some data. So there are some holes in between.
So how often were you getting scanned or scanning yourself?
Well, I try every 8 hours, so I capture as much as possible.
Hours.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Okay, so on the 12th, at 11:15, I had a cappuccino. I was testing exactly if I can have cappuccino, and there was no problem at all.
Oh, so the cappuccino didn't make any spike?
Well, I have it without sugar, but apparently it made a little spike here. Because the spike usually comes an hour after.
Got it.
That'd be the milk, eh?
Yeah, I think so.
Did you ever try it with just coffee? Was it the same?
Just coffee, I tried a few times, no problems at all.
So no spike?
No.
Mm.
Then at 13:50, I had chicken breast, grilled chicken breast, salad. 13:50, so there must be around here, almost 14. So I had a little spike, but not as brutal as it would have been otherwise.
So that was a carbohydrate-free meal?
Yes.
Oh.
Then in the evening, though, I had pumpkin soup with vegetables. And it spiked.
No.
Who would have thought?
Off
Who
the
did
Richter.
that?
So pumpkins is something I do not apparently digest very well.
There's quite a lot of sugar in a pumpkin, isn't it? It's so sweet.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, there was not much other stuff inside, some other vegetables, but I then excluded them over the next days, because obviously when you mix them, you're not really sure what it is. But in the next days, I kind of experimented with that.
So what you'd like to do is to remove any foods.
I take that back.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I just see what the reason was.
Gnocchi with tomato, black olive. That would be the gnocchi.
Exactly.
Don't blame the pumpkin when the gnocchi did it.
I had gnocchi. That's it. Potato.
Naughty.
Because it's potato based. Okay. Now let's see. I'm gonna go far forward. I'm not gonna go there with every day. But as you can see, then the fourth day, I got a bit smarter about it, and I kind of evened it out. You see, because I was very aware now about what I was eating and when I was eating, and you can see this is very smooth compared to all the other days already. Right?
Smooth.
So what was this style? Generally like low carb and no sugars?
Low carb. So let me check this out. This is February 13th. Coffee in the morning. A salad for lunch. A little bit of cheese as a snack at 5 p.m. And then the evening, chickpeas, broccoli, and tuna fillet. And I did not cross the 140.
Woo!
Oh, exactly. So yeah, it did it.
Oh Jesus! You made up for it the
That
next
is-
day, you pig.
That is really interesting. So I'll be really intrigued to see if we all did it and all ate the same thing. That would be a real
Yeah, you guys should get a
comparison.
cyborg
yeah.
yourselves too. Now here I got a good routine for the morning, which is in the morning coffee, some nuts, eggs, proteins in the morning, veggies for lunch. Then there's a spike actually going down. Can you see that? And that's because I went running.
Yeah.
So that kind of really sucked out literally the energy out of me, and so the glucose levels went down.
Okay, Sal, on that, so obviously that was a cardio, an aerobic run.
Yes, exactly.
Did you notice it, for example, if you did some exercise which was more anaerobic, a bit more intense?
Yeah, not in terms of that I felt like weaker or something, or that I felt...
No. I mean the blood sugar.
No, not at all.
So it would dip for anaerobic exercise.
Yeah, but I didn't feel like lightheaded or anything. As you can see, also it's far away from the dangerous area, so no problems here. In the evening, I tried a whole wheat risotto rice, and I had a big spike. But I found out afterwards that actually they were cheating on the package, and it was a mixed rice. So it's 3 different kinds of rice, and one of them was whole grain, and so they kind of. So I have to do this experiment again tomorrow with real whole grain rice.
Sal, did you do any experiments? Because I vaguely remember hearing on a podcast that the order of the food that you eat also makes a difference. So if you have a plate of, let's say, a protein, chicken, a vegetable, and a carbohydrate, like potato, if you eat the vegetable first, it will blunt the spike in your blood glucose from the carbohydrate. Did you do any messing around with the order of the foods?
Not really, because usually once I started experimenting, it was either pure or it was completely mixed, and there was no point. There was no way in. So either I had one food, like for example chicken fillet grilled, and it was just that, or it was some kind of soup, and so there I could not really.
Well, if you were committed, Sal, you'd be sorting that stuff
Well,
out like alphabet soup.
What I did, for example, alphabet soup, is I found out that mate, Argentinian mate,
Yerba
mate, for example, which is the brand that I go with, lowers glucose levels. So drinking that right after eating kind of stabilizes my glucose levels. In fact, you can see pretty well that here on the 15th it starts, but especially on this day here, which is the 16th, when I start experimenting with mate, how it smoothens out. You see, especially this part here, which is when I started. Well, this was a night sleep actually, but it kind of stabilizes. So for 2 days, I'm doing quite well. And the 3rd day, look at this. This is mate yerba.
So you would be eating something and then drinking your yerba mate tea.
Yeah, I started basically. I started a routine. I changed my routine then to getting up, not eating for at least 2 hours after getting up. So I'm still fasted from the evening before. Then I have 100 grams of mixed nuts to get my daily intake of fats, and 2 eggs to start the protein intake of the day, which is not enough, of course. But then at 11 a.m. I drink espresso, normal batch, and then after lunch I start preparing and drinking mate. And that for a couple hours, because basically you make a big batch of water, warm water, half a liter or something, or a bit less, and you can then use it on the herbs for a couple hours. And so that kind of seems to stabilize. So the next day I did not drink tea. Or maybe here I still did, but you will see soon what happened here.
Oh, jeez, what did you do? That's over 200. You should have exploded at that point.
That's a pretty bad day. Let me see, 19th. What happened on the 19th?
What did you go, John?
You were spooning granulated into your mouth.
Let me see, 19.
Cocoa Pops.
Yeah, I had aubergine, tomato, and chickpeas in the oven.
No.
Wait. Sorry. That was the evening. Evening was fine. Sorry. It was actually... here we go.
Cornetto.
11:03. It's a cornetto. It's a
croissant.
Croissant, exactly.
Those bloody croissants.
Yeah.
Never trust the French.
One croissant did that.
No way.
Yeah.
What kind of croissant was it?
It was actually whole grain. Whole grain, but obviously it's not whole grain.
With honey?
With honey, yeah.
Was she worth it?
It was tasty. Tasty. Okay, so let's see.
That is crazy, isn't it? That makes sense, I suppose. Just it's a lot more sugar in a croissant than what it would be like your pastas and everything else that was making it spike. It was more.
So then I have a few days that are more contained. Nothing too crazy here. I mean, nothing too crazy happening here because I'm mostly taking care of what I eat. The last 2 days here it gets a bit crazy because I discovered that I can make whole grain muffins, and so I ate a lot of them. and you can see the result here and also here. So that's kind of messed up my.
So you're like one muffin,
Statistics.
one cup of yerba mate, and you thought that'll be all right.
Something like that, yeah. And yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So what have you learned from this? Are there certain foods that you're just going to cut completely out of your diet, or
Yeah.
the limit?
So definitely spaghetti, white rice. Ooh, we're losing Dan again. Recording part 2. Let's go.
So Sal, have you got any lessons that you take away from this? Any foods that you would avoid or reduce?
Yes. So for me personally, of course, because this is a highly personal experiment, and so it's going to be different for everybody. And again, don't do these things without checking back with your doctor or healthcare provider.
Do it.
I'm definitely going to stop or dramatically reduce, at least, because every now and then I might still want to indulge in a slice of pizza, But certainly I'm going to completely eliminate throughout the normal month any grains that are not whole grain. So normal spaghetti, which is a bit difficult in Italy where we live, or where some of us live at least. I'm going to cut out that, certainly. White rice, definitely. I'm going to completely avoid that. Potatoes, I had very strong reactions to that, so I'm going to completely avoid that. Sugars in general, I've already been very aware of sugar before, but I'm going to triple check now.
So you're talking about added sugars?
Added sugars, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Because I also tested fruits, and most fruits were fine, so
Right.
I didn't have many problems there. The timings, I realized that when I eat at 6:30 p.m., which is not always possible, my glucose levels in the evening are way lower, and actually on 3 occasions in the morning they were within normal range, whereas all the other mornings on a fasted state, on a fasted stomach, they were in the pre-diabetic area. So there's a few things I can do, certainly, to stay within a healthy range. Again, I'm gonna this experiment's gonna finish tomorrow, because this, as I said, this device only lasts for 14 days, and then you have to either exchange it or it's just not usable anymore. So tomorrow I have the last day of the last couple hours of being able to test a few things, and then check back with the doctor, obviously, to see if how reliable they are. Because one thing that needs to be said too is that this device is not testing the blood itself, but the liquid that is right under the skin. And so it's, while the quality appears to be high, it's still not the same as measuring the blood sugar. So it can be off in either direction. And so that's another thing that needs to be considered. So, I'm not too worried. But it's very interesting. It's very insightful. It's basically literally like, having, as I said before, having a little warning lamp in your car telling you that the battery is low, that the gas is a bit low, and so you can actually do something about it. You feel like you're more in charge of what's happening, and from a psychological point of view, that's a big thing.
May I present a proposal?
Absolutely.
If we choose a couple of weeks, that's good for all of us. Try and eat exactly the same things, each with one of these devices on, and see how much. Obviously, the brands will be different, but generally speaking, try and have roughly the same meals at roughly the same times, and see what kind of data we come up with.
Yeah, we could do that.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah.
That'll be fun.
Oh yeah.
See you later.
All right. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.